This week's Torah portion is entitled Parashat Pinchas and comes from Numbers 25 verse 10 through to 30 verse 1. In the Torah portion, Hashem makes a special covenant of peace with Pinchas because of what he had done to cleanse Israel from the idolatry they had started to practice with the Midianites. Now what did he do? Pinchas used a spear to kill a prince of Israel, Zimri, and the Midianite woman with whom he is caught carrying out an immoral act. The plague that had killed thousands of Israelites is brought to an end by Pinchas' act. For his zealous defense of the holiness of God, Hashem makes a covenant of peace with him and promises that the priesthood would stay permanently with the descendants of Pinchas. Now, the sages say that prior to this act, Pinchas was not himself actually a priest. Hashem gives Moses the order to attack the Midianites and to destroy them. We then see in the Torah portion the second registration of Israel's troops, the men aged 20 years and older. The people are counted again, and the Lord gives Moses instructions to divide the land among the tribes according to their numbers. At this time, there are no men left who had been among those originally counted by Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, except for Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb. So we see that the generation who would enter the promised land is a different one than the one that left Egypt. When the tribes were numbered for the purpose of allotting the land, it was according to the reckoning of the men of a certain age. Now there was a man named Zelophehad who had died in the wilderness, and he had no sons but 5 daughters. These 5 daughters of Zelophehad came to Moses to request that an allotment be made to them in the promised land, since their father had no sons. They say, "Why should our father lose his allotment because he had no sons when he was not amongst those who rebelled with Korah?" This now was a new situation for the Israelites, and so Moses goes to Hashem and consults with him as to what to do. And Hashem instructs him, give the allotment to the daughters. This establishes a new statute for Israel. The leadership of Israel is transferred from Moses to Joshua, who is commissioned by Moses in the presence of Eleazar the priest and the whole congregation. We see, therefore, a whole generational shift in leadership in the priesthood and also the leadership of the nation. The parasha then gives details of the laws of offerings for daily sacrifices, for Shabbat, for the new moons, for the high holy days, Pesach, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, etc. The Haftarah comes from Jeremiah 1:2 to 2 verse 3. The reading recounts Jeremiah's call and commissioning as a prophet. It also provides an important parallel to the Torah portion, as we see here that Jeremiah is described as the son of a priest, similarly to Pinchas, and is called to rebuke Israel because of her idolatry. Jeremiah is young, very young at the time, and is convinced that he's too young to be sent to rebuke God's people. But he represents a different generation and a new commissioning from Hashem. So this week's Torah portion and the Haftarah, we could say, speak about the importance of seasons, the fact that certain seasons come to an end. There is a time span, there's a period that requires a certain leadership, and then there's a time when new leadership is required. Moses brought the children of Israel up out of Egypt. He brought them through the wilderness. He brought them across the Red Sea. He brought them to the edge of the promised land, but he was not able to take them the rest of the way. So Joshua was commissioned and given the authority that was needed for the new season, not the season of slavery, neither the season of the wilderness, but the season of the promised land, of settling, of taking possession of the land and beginning to build the nation that the Lord had been preparing them for all that time in the wilderness. And that's what we can take away from this week's Torah portion.